Welcome to Press Hour, and thank you for honoring today's edition of the program. Some Cameroonians look back to the National Youth Day, today simply known as Youth Day, with nostalgia. Nostalgia of the parade, nostalgia of the ballet and cultural dances, nostalgia of other performances, sports activities, and the gala evenings that followed a general atmosphere of euphoria. But there are others who look back in anger. They look back with bitterness, saying the Youth Day has a calculated attempt to distort history that is catching up with us today. On Press Hour today, we shall not dig back with discontentment. We shall forge into the future to find out those elements, that is, the ingredients which can sweeten the bitter soup and help us as one people reach to reconcile the future with the past. On Press Hour, we do not suppress our, only make sure that our good sense lead our discussions and our debate. The panel for the program today is made up of 4 gentlemen who are already here. I'm going to start with Stephen Ojong. Stephen Ojong is the Chief Executive Officer of the Media newspaper. Stephen, welcome to the program.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be on Press Hour.
Professor Elvis Ngole is one of us. He is here. Professor is a political scientist. He's also a member of the CPDM Center Committee. Prof, welcome.
Thank you, Killian. It's a great pleasure to be back on Press Hour with very great and eminent gentlemen, and at the same time friends. Steve and Denise and Mr. Tembong, we all know each other, and we're all together to build the future. And I think that is always a pleasure to come back and exchange with the public through your very prestigious platform.
Thank you very much, Prof. We are honored by your presence here.
Thank you.
Yes, to my left, I have 2 gentlemen. First, you, Dennis Kemlemont, is the National Communication Secretary of the Social Democratic Front Party, the SDF. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you, Killian. It's a pleasure being here. I want to say good afternoon to my fellow panelists.
Yes, we are honored by your presence. To the extreme left of the set, we have Solomon Tembang. Solomon Tembang is a desk editor in the Guardian Post newspaper. Welcome, Solomon.
Thank you very much, Killian, for once more inviting me to this platform that has become more of a reference as far as television programs in Cameroon are concerned.
Thank you very much for coming. We're going to kick-start the program with our usual slot that sets the pace for us to go ahead into the discussions. And we have press review this week with Yoti Lisongwe.
Newspaper publishers took to the stands Monday morning this week, papers with hard news on the murder of 3 third-class chiefs in the BLM division of the Southwest region. The Herald Tribune headlines, "Le BLM, 3 chiefs gruesomely murdered by amber fighters," and the reporter doesn't mince his word in the article as he writes, 3 lives terminated. While the Herald Tribune already discloses the assassins, Cameroon Tribune also talks of the killing of traditional rulers in the BLM, but reports that investigation is still on course to uncover the culprits who took those 3 custodians of the tradition in Esau Atta to the market square where they were killed and dumped. In a press release that follows from an elite Paul Tassong in the same paper, it is however revealed that a group of terrorists led by Lekeka Oliver, alias Field Marshal, acting under the instructions of his older brother Christopher Anu, who resides in the United States of America, invaded Esau Atta village in the BLM, where he woke the 3 chiefs up from sleep, took them to the market square at about midnight, shot them dead and dropped their lifeless bodies in a nearby river. And as the military raid the BLM, Field Marshal takes to his heels, the security forces apprehended the second-in-command to the dreaded Ambazonian general. Authorities confirmed to the Guardian Post. A similar angle is treated by the Chronicle Times, who headlined for orchestrating killing of LBLM chiefs, population curses Chris Anu and Field Marshal, while at the same time telling the tale of two brothers feeding on human blood, as Minister Tassong vows to fight Field Marshal and Chris Anu to finish in the horizon. The Chronicle Times tells readers that it is a grim message that makes Chris Anu, now a fugitive, to tremble. The political climate in Cameroon then takes another turn as the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, SDF, Ni John Frundi, announces his intention to step down. The Voice captions on the cover page, Frundi, opposition SDF enigmatic leader, to go. To the Guardian Post, Frundi gives Biya and other sit-tight party leaders democratic lessons with his decisions to quit party leadership and hand the baton to a younger person, a move that has been described as un-Cameroonian. The Post simply headlines, Frundi to surrender SDF chairmanship at next convention. To the horizon, it is probable John Frundi, the man who has been leader of the SDF party since 1990, is cognizant of the fact that it is better to quit the stage when the applause is louder or before you get swallowed up. Meanwhile, the advocate worries that the SDF is at crossroads as Frundi indicates stepping down. AD newspaper then speculates the future of the SDF as Frundi quits the leadership of an enfeebled party. Stories on the National Anti-Corruption Commission, CONAC, taking the fight against corruption to schools also animated the public. As disclosed in Cameroon Tribune, the corruption trend in the education sector is 7.6 on 10. Bribery, promotion, posting and appointments, bribery for marks and sexual harassment being the most recurrent. The chairman of CONAC, Reverend Dr. Dieudonné, thus installs an integrity club made up of 15 executives and 100 members at Fomic Polytech UB and the University of Buea. The papers is the Fcfa leadership crisis, as according to the Guardian Post, stakeholders still ignore President Biya's advice to revive sports for the image of the country as they remain on a war path. Seydou Mbombo-Njoya, who first announces the start of the league on February 25 and 26 this year, has his decision dismissed by the president of the Provisional Management Committee of Fcfa, Senator Albert Mbida, who argues that it is in line with the ruling of the Court of Arbitration for Sports, CAS, who have annulled the 2018 election. The Horizon sees this as the result of having one Fcfa with two interim managements and wonders if Cameroon's football championships will resume this weekend. Cameroon Tribune, however, comes with a glimmer of hope in one of its major headlines, that on football. Local championship resumption on February 27, a decision said to have been arrived at after a meeting between Fcfa and club presidents. We end the press review with news on the 55th Youth Day. The opinion of some youth in the Herald Tribune have it that even though the head of state challenges them to fight for national unity, the speech is empty. Meanwhile, in an article on the Horizon, the Minister of Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, unveils an avalanche of projects and encourages youth to be assertive and alert in order to grab the various opportunities that will be made available throughout the year.
Thank you very much, Yoti. As you must have noticed, the newspapers had so much to feed on, and she relayed that to us. Now, the papers talked so much about the gruesome killings after kidnapping in the LBLM division of the Southwest region. We are going to comment on that with an eyewitness, an escapee from what happened in LBLM. We're going to start with you, Stephen. What comment do you have to make about what happened in Eswata village?
The comment I should make is that it is totally unacceptable. It is barbaric, it is inhuman. And I wonder what reason is behind this kind of killings. If people say they are fighting for liberation of their people, how come they are instead killing the people they are fighting to liberate? I think this should be condemned in toto. And I think it gives an opportunity for the people of BLM, those who were still supporting the Field Marshal and the others, to rally together and go after these killers.
Prof, and the reason he gives for killing them is that they actually exercised their citizenship right, that they went and voted in election. Disheartening.
That makes it as much more tragic and sad because, and I join Mr. Sivojong to condemn this sort of behavior because it is so barbaric, it's so senseless, it's so illogical, it's so irresponsible, it's so inhuman that you ask yourself, after 4+ years of this cruelty and evil, why would we, as human beings that we are, want to continue with a future which is so sad, so barbaric, so painful? I think that it is an opportunity not only for me to say, as Mr. Steve Ojong has said, to condemn this sort of acts, but also at the same time to express my sympathies and condolences to our brothers and sisters of the BLM division for having gone through this sort of painful experience. I think that what this shows is that the people who are carrying out these activities, these sort of barbaric activities, have not understood that as human beings that we are, in a republic which is as organized as we have it, we have to understand that whatever grievances we've got, whatever frustrations we've got, we have no right to violate the law. We have no right to take away human dignity, human life, and we have no right to cause so much pain on fellow human beings, because what that means is that we deprive ourselves of the grievances or of the... In other words, you cannot do justice, you cannot seek justice by carrying out injustice.
Exactly. Prof, we cannot come to terms with such, as you say, as Steve also said, barbarism. Dennis Kemlemon, that's your division of origin. And the one thing that we don't understand is the environment makes it favorable for the Field Marshal and unfavorable for those who want to get hold of him. Tell us exactly how it is that makes that type of environment in your area there.
Well, I will not want to talk about Field Marshal because I will not want to jump into hasty conclusion on the authors of that gruesome murder. I love the way Cameroon Tribune put it when they said investigations are going on. But people were very fast to just jump and start giving accusations. We have seen in this country situations where people have accused others of crimes that they themselves committed, and investigations have proved that those accusations were false. It was a very gruesome, and we of the BLM are used to such, especially within the course of this war. The war has been very brutal on us, the BLM people. The Field Marshal that some are talking about and even marching in Yaoundé to console rather than going to Menji to do that, some the BLM political elites, is a creation of the CPDM, the BLM political elite.
How can you say
the
that?
Fond of Fontaine, I'm saying it authoritatively. The late Fond of Fontaine, Senator Fond of Fontaine, used Field Marshal Oliver Leclerc as his stock to terrorize political opponents in the division. It's when he died that he came to Yaoundé, and from Yaoundé this thing started. He went back to the BLM. It is alleged to be used to fight Ambazonian or separatists. He got there, the terms of contract was not respected by those who brought him there, and he started on the other side and discovered that it was not only lucrative, but like he was fighting a more heroic, from a more heroic stand.
Okay.
So to some people in the BLM, he is a terrorist. To others, he is a repentant person who came back to fight for his people.
Yes.
So what we are saying, what I am saying on behalf of my party is, we should not go so fast to lay blames. We have to have an independent investigation into this, and whosoever is responsible has to be called to book and done that seriously.
I think all of us, Canada said that, the US said that, UK have said that, many other countries have openly taken their position and said whoever did that should be brought to book. But you have not told us the question I asked.
Yes.
The environment. What makes it difficult?
No, the BLM is a very hilly, first of all, very hilly environment with a lot of thick forest and caves, and it is a very inaccessible division. The powers that be in Yaoundé kept us under serious development.
We're talking about the forest. We're not talking about access.
And please, listen to me. That lack of accessibility, that lack of roads, has helped to block interventions which could save many situations. So the government is reaping part of what is sold in under development.
Thank you very much. Solomon, your comment?
Just like Mr. Kelemo said, that investigations are still on. But whoever committed the act, it is condemnable. I'm not concerned about who committed the act. I'm concerned about the fact that the act was committed. It is unacceptable for a traditional ruler to be killed. This is the opportune time traditional rulers are killed in the Northwest and Southwest region. No. It should be condemned.
That's correct.
And it is the more reason why we must go to the dialogue table to solve this crisis. If not, many people will continue dying, and we should not allow people to die while we sit in our air-conditioned homes in Yaoundé and make statements as to the fact that we have communicated Field Marshal Chris Ano.
Yes.
As he said, the so-called early wood march in Yaoundé should have gone down to Meiji, bring out other traditional rulers to excommunicate Chris Ano and Oliver Likaka. As an elite, as a commoner, you don't excommunicate somebody from their own village. From where I come from, it is done by a traditional ruler. They should have gone to Menji, bring out other traditional rulers to make the pronouncement traditionally.
Okay, we got you.
Rather than sitting in Yaoundé and marching on the street is of no essence.
We got you any action that condemns that we support such action, wherever it is carried out, because from one action,
concrete action and not have measures. We should
not make political capital.
This war has been dragging for 4 years, and we keep talking and talking. It is no longer time to talk.
Some
It's time for action.
And make political capital out of a very sad situation.
We got you right. Let's just watch an escapee, somebody who was part of those who were kidnapped, who tells us that he carried Field Marshal himself. Watch this testimony. I know we're going to watch that testimony by somebody who actually is telling us that he went there and saw what happened and escaped.
I'm from Dungo, a quarter in Gents, Esota. So that guy came and said I should come out of the house, should come out. I came out. There were arms with guns, titles, and one other, and a friend named Mbinka. They came and they said I should go out. I went out. I said, what is going on? They said, when I will reach at the junction, I will know. So they took me to one junction named Tongbefe. They said, I met one lady named by Mary. She said we should sit there and wait for the bus. I said, who is the boss? She said, the king. The king is coming. I said, okay. That guy said, you should go with that man and take that other chief for me. I went and took him. They came to that junction. They started beating people and tied people off like they usually do slave trade. So they took us to Farakedang. And he was insisting that they should see Fontenelle. They should look for a way and get Fontenelle. So we went down When that very guy told him that I'm having a bike, so they went and took my bike. I carry Fee Masha. So we went down to Forekedang, Abebgo. Before we arrived at Abebgo, it was already dark. When we arrived at Forekedang, he said he's going to kill all those chiefs. When those chiefs came, that Mary was in charge of the people that were kidnapped by Fee Masha. So he came and caught him cafe. He said, yes, any report? He said, yes, those people are already here. Because he was moving with a bike. He arrived first. He said, they are here. He said, do you see that other chief, Fontenale? He said, yes. He said, good, bring them. They said, the chief Fontenale is even moving with a vote card. He said, fine. He said, bring them to this place. They brought them. Everybody was sitting down. When Fontenale came, he asked him, did you vote? He said, yes. He said, Chief Fuzzy and this Fomin, were they at Menji? That chief said, yes. He said, he gave the order that they should take Fuzzy. They should go and kill him. They take him. He gave an order from Tonda. He said, Tonda, shoot. Tonda was like pretending. He said, no. He said, he gave the next order to Killer, Commander Killer. He said, Killer, I command you to shoot now. It's Fee Masha the king. I'm saying you should shoot now. He shot Fuzzy. They're like celebrating, they asked us to clap. And then when they shot Fuzzy, he said one statement that Asawana. They say Wana, Asawana, they say Wana. And then he said, Amba no go taya, only water day. They started singing and we were clapping and we were jumping. He said to Chief Fomin that you will be the next person to die. And it's not like as if when he was in Forekedang, he was max. And we know him, the Fee Masha, because he have been in Forekedang several times. And each time he come there, his other people always cry. When he did all those things, shoot all those 3 chiefs in Forekedang, I was being sent with a bike with one of his men, named by Tonda, to go and bring chief from there. And we went there and pleaded on that man so he can leave that chief. So he left the chief and we went back and give the report as planned. And when we came back, the time that I escaped was the time they said they should go and throw the bodies of those chiefs in the river. That was the time I managed to escape, only by God.
Horrible. Horrible indeed. Now, Dennis, this is somebody who says he was there.
Yes, it is very touching. I insist, from what I said, that these testimonies or whatever people say should not distract the authorities that be for an independent investigation into these things, because whosoever is committing atrocities in the southwest and northwest in the course of this war, no matter his position, where the truth will come out one day and they will all be punished, no matter his position in the country or in the Amber camp.
Yes, Solomon. When he speaks, he does not give any impression for us to doubt again.
If the narrative from the eyewitness, the person who has been presented as an eyewitness, is anything to go by, you will understand that even some of the so-called commanders, one of the commanders of Fee Masha is stated not to shoot the traditional ruler. Mm-hmm. It testifies the fact that he knows it himself that a traditional ruler is untouchable.
Exactly.
And means this act shouldn't have been committed.
Yes, Prof.
And how, I want to ask the question, how has killing the traditional rulers advanced the struggle?
No, we don't. I mean, that's a good question.
Answer to that question.
Yeah, Solomon, that's a very good question. Mm-hmm. You know, there is nothing on earth that justifies, that can provide a reason to kill someone simply because you don't like him or you disagree with him. And this is no exception. This evidence that has been provided by this eyewitness, unless one doubts the authenticity of the person who is providing the witness, shows clearly that it is this Ambazonia group of terrorists who did these killings. And we all condemn it. And if one continues to doubt as to who has done it, I mean, this is clear evidence in any court.
Yes.
I hope the British and the Americans and the Canadians will know that even in their own courts, when a piece of evidence comes such as this, it's very difficult for lawyers to debunk it.
Not at all.
But we know that from day one, this is more than 4 years ago, we said this. And we say it because we are all from the Northwest and the Southwest regions. And we know that over 60 years of our existence, there have been problems. And these problems have been given the name or the title, the Anglophone problem. Nobody doubts that. We all, even the head of state at some point, did express that there was some pertinence in the grievances and the protests and so forth and so on. But whatever be the case, under no circumstances on this earth should we get to the point where our frustrations lead us to violate the dignity of the human being, the sanctity of life, the laws of the republic, and then decide to go after. I'm very glad to see that, as Solomon said, that one of the commanders hesitated. That shows that not all of them agree that you should be inhuman to your fellow human being, which is good.
Yes, actually, Steve, when you watch and listen to that evidence, I think whatever doubts you have, it should be a clue.
Ever since the information was put out, I had no doubt that it could be Field Marshal who did it. And from what the guy just said and the way his rendition was free-flowing, I have the impression that what he's saying is true. And you realize that he said at some point that when they were sent to go and bring one other chief, they got there, they hatched a plot and came back and told Field Marshal that the chief was... It means they are against what Field Marshal is doing. That shows that the people of BrigadeAntiSardinard are helpless. They are not in support of what Field Marshal is doing. But apparently there is no state security, no state presence to help them to be able to counter
let's say that the state is strategizing on how to go about it. Thank you very much. And there are these grievances that have taken us to this level that come up with what we're going to discuss in our next topic. That is, looking back in anger, as we said earlier, has made people to deviate, to come up to this type of activities that, as Prof, as you said, they lose respect in human dignity, in human life, and that's exactly what we are going to see now. How can this bitter past to these people be reconciled by looking forward, by the future? That's our next discussion after this. Please watch. Welcome back. And we say again, many people say that when they look back the history of the Northwest and Southwest, they look back in anger. We said some look back in nostalgia when they used to celebrate the Youth Day. At the time was the National Youth Day, the sporting activities, the cultural dances, the ballet dances, the gala evenings where there used to be a lot of euphoria. And we have lost all of that. Now many people now look back in anger and they say that's what justifies what's happening today. But we think that we have a better future. How can we look forward and reconcile with this past? That is our question today, Prof. We're going to begin with you.
Yes, I mean, as to the question, how can we reconcile the future with the past? You know, when in all societies in the world, nation building is a political activity, and all societies in the world create political systems. In other words, they transform their societies into political societies while doing other, because society as by definition in conception is not a political conception. I'm sure anthropologists and sociologists will agree to this. But from the standpoint of politics, every society tries to construct itself politically. That's what we call state or nation building. Every society in the world tries to create a nation and a state out of itself. In other words, that is a political angle of social construction. Sociologists and anthropologists remain and talk about society, while the political scientists, historians, journalists, and other lawyers talk about the political aspects. You know, nation building is actually an exercise in construction. We are engineering, constructing. And it's not always an easy thing, because we are human beings. Mistakes are made. We adjustments are made. And this is what has happened in 60 years in Cameroon.
Let us concretely.
Yes.
Construction,
building.
building,
Building
readjustment.
is
What do you
construction.
What do you put
in it? Yes. What you put in it is that in building a political society, which we call a nation or a nation state, all the citizens of that society, no matter their origins, their tribe, their religion, their language, whatever they come from, try to become builders. In other words, they put in their contribution. And these contributions are not always the same. There's diversity, there's no doubt. And in that construction, some may get angry because they perceive that they're not getting a good deal, which is what is happening in our society in the last 60 years. But our society is no exception to this. What we know is that in the building of our nation, the nation of Cameroon, in 60 years, all Cameroonians have contributed their own quota. And the people of the North and Southwest have also contributed.
Yes, but let us say the building you're talking about, construction you're talking about, it refers to philosophical and concrete, infrastructural.
Yes.
So what are the type of things that we have to do in this building that can reconcile with the past, that makes these people who are angry not to continue to
Indeed, what we have to do to reconcile with the past is that those who began this construction, whom we call the founding fathers, in other words, the past generation, let's put it that way, because we are of a different generation. In the past generation, the Pafonchas, the Munas, and the Ndelis, and the Joas, and the Mutumbi Wolitas, and all that, the Moketes, and so forth, everyone did their best during their time. They might have had some limitations and constraints, there's no doubt. But they built the building blocks. They gave us a kind of constitution. They gave us kinds of laws. They gave us kinds of constitutions. And it gave us a sort of culture where they believe that whatever mistakes we've made, the best way to solve is not to cut each other's neck. The best way to solve these mistakes is to talk, to come together.
So did they fail in their teaching, or the learners failed in their learning?
I think they were correct in their teaching, but the learners, meaning you and I of the present generation, we seem to have failed in our learning because we are interpreting their teachings. We are interpreting their vision and their wisdom as if to say, we are the Alpha and Omega, we know it all, and that what they did was wrong. Whereas I think what they did was a good foundation. We just have to know that in our present generation, yes, we have Android. We have all kinds of modern things. We are more educated than they were.
Okay.
But we need to give them credit.
Yeah, to use the education
to use
solve
the education
the problems that we have.
And in order to solve our problems, rather than dismiss it.
Thank you. When you listen to Prof. Dennis, what do you say, before you go into what we can use like ingredients to let the future reconcile with the past? What are some of these things that these people today are looking back in anger and making them behave the way they are doing?
Prof says the founding fathers gave the right lessons, but we, the generation that followed, didn't learn the lessons as they were given. That's why we are where we are today. In summary, if I'm not mistaken, that was the crux of his argument. I would like to say that when the founding fathers built a country on truth, it is very unlikely that the generation that follow would deviate from that truth. But when it is built on injustice and falsehood, the generations that follow may come and want to rectify, and they may not have the expertise of rectifying well, and may go into the type of drama that we see today. I want to say that Cameroon was built, the foundation of modern Cameroon was built on falsehood and manipulation. And we are harvesting the fruits of that today.
How do you mean? Falsehood? What do you actually mean?
Yes, I want to be more concrete, because when I listened to Prof, I had the impression that he was not very concrete. The topic of 11 February, let's take from the topic, 11 February. 11 February has come to be celebrated as Youth Day. Nobody in Cameroon understands the mechanics that led to the transformation of 11 February into Youth Day celebration. Because if we get our history notes well, 11 February was the day that, the plebiscite day, that British Southern Cameroons, and then British Southern Cameroons, plebiscited to join La République du Cameroun. And so, the best they could do, the closest they could do in terms of history to celebrate that day would have been Independence Day. That is because it was a day that the major decision that the two countries, the two components decided to come together. It will have been a celebration of that decision.
Okay.
Pushing it to Youth Day is a way of cover up, because there have been a systematic, methodical attempt to delete history by the powers in Yaoundé, from Aijo to Mr. Biya today, to make the young generation Anglophones not see that we were first of all apart before we come together. So it is that has pushed
let
us
us look
to
at
that
it this
situation we have
don't
today.
you think, from what you are saying,
Yeah.
you have given some facts. We don't comment, we don't argue facts.
Yeah.
But behind the facts, you did some interpretation by saying their intention, by already giving intention is an interpretation. Don't you also think that by plebisciting to come as one nation, they were focusing on that one nation rather than going back to what was representing another state? We mean that the intention might not have been wrong.
Yes, Killian, I agree with you. That is why I said it was supposed to, if it was to be close to the truth, it would have been chosen as our national day, which is celebrated like today is 20th May.
When two states merge.
No, let me make the point.
Okay.
Because from your argument, it is the day that we decided to come in as one nation. We don't see how the youth element in that, they brought it as Youth Day. We don't see the youth element as that. That's what we are talking about. The only intention can be to obliterate that fact. And you will see that in 1961, and that same falsehood goes to the celebration of our National Day, 20th May. Because in 1961, which Southern Cameroons had independence by joining La République du Cameroun, and Cameroon became one. On that day, we could have either put our Independence Day celebration, National Day, on that day we saw the complete independence of Cameroon, the completion of the independence of modern Cameroon as it is, or in 1st October that we had independence, or in 1st January that La République had independence. But we carried it to 20th May 1972? 72, where there was a political coup d'etat that diluted and undermined the Fumban Accord of Constitution of a federal state in Cameroon.
Now,
so when you see that, and from there, because you say mine is interpretation, but I'm giving the facts because it went up in when Mr. Biya came to power, he decided to adopt the name of Cameroon to be the name that La République du Cameroun had before unification. So when you see these glaring facts, and to learn, in the last conference that he had in Paris, he himself, you cannot call it interpretation, because he himself stated categorically that there have been attempts to assimilate Anglophones, but they are resisted.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
To conclude, when we build on falsehood,
he didn't say he was the one attempting to do so.
He was not the one.
Exactly. Attempts by who? By those who handle this country now. By the regimes, the two regimes.
I will come to you. I will come to you.
So when you have the history of a people built on falsehood, then you don't expect this type of things not to happen. Yes.
On Press R.
Yes.
We do not suppress our emotions. That's why we have allowed you to speak. But we'll make sure that our good sense guide our discussions. Yeah. Now, with the facts that you have given, that many people share with you out there, those are the things that are making people bitter. Our question is, how can we look into the future and reconcile the future with this past?
So very good question. The very good point. The only way, the solution to this, to create a better, glorious future from this very dark past, is genuine dialogue which addresses the root causes of the bitterness, without manipulation, without falsehood, but with the truth and justice and reconciliation and intention to build. I don't believe, unlike others.
We got that.
I just want to say, unlike others, because this is important. Unlike others, I don't believe that the situation is irreparable.
Exactly. That's why we are asking that question. Thank you very much. We're coming over to you, Stephen. Stephen is the Chief Executive Officer of the media newspaper. How can we reconcile, go into the future to reconcile with our past, which he says is that?
And before I suggest ways and means by which we can have a better way forward in Cameroon, I want to say that I really have no problem with the government deciding to celebrate 11 February as National Youth Day. We must not forget the fact that it is not only 11 February we have in this country. There is 1st January where East Cameroon got its independence. There is 11 February where we did the referendum. There is 1st October and other dates. There is 20th May. And if the government decided to use 11 February as Youth Day, because it is a good thing to set out the day for the youth, to bring consciousness in the youth. And we should not forget that it is not just 11 February, it's an entire week. They call it Youth Week. What the government needs to do is to make sure that week is used to sensitize the youth on the importance of this date. It's not the change the nomenclature, that is Youth Day or whatever, the other Empire Day or whatever. It's not important. It's the sensitization, the education of the youth that on this day, such and such a thing happened to Cameroon. And that is why we are celebrating. We set aside this day for the celebration of the youth.
That's right.
That notwithstanding, I want to say that I realize that in our country, it would appear the colonial masters deliberately handed power to people who were not knowledgeable enough. Because when I look at people like Aijo, Foncha, Muna, and the others, none of them had even ordinary levels. On the contrary, excuse me, let me
yes, I know. Let me tell you that some of those Standard 6 people in those days are better off than graduates in our universities today. You can continue.
On the contrary, if you go to countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah had a PhD, Nandi Azikiwe had a PhD, Awolowo was a lawyer, and things like that. On the contrary, in our own country, grade 2 teachers who took up. Aijo was just a telecom technician. So you see, the French were virtually ruling the country. They claimed to have handed us the country, but they were still telling us what to do. That is why in our country, until maybe 1980, you had people who had PhDs in history from the University of Yaoundé who did not know how politics in West Cameroon.
Yes, Stephen, that is still part of that bitter past.
Another issue.
That's still part of that bitter past. How can we now reconcile?
The first thing I want to suggest is that there should be a national pledge in this country. This idea of for instance, they want to do the news, the jingle that comes up is singing about President Paul Biya and things like that. It should not be. They give the impression that the beginning of wisdom, excuse me, they give the impression that the beginning of wisdom in Cameroon, patriotism starts when you show love for President Biya. Patriotism is a social contract between the state and the citizen. The citizen has his role to play, the state has his role to play. If there has been a breakdown in the country because the state has reneged on its own part of the contract, you see there has been a breakdown of all kinds of values in this country.
Okay.
There was a time in this country.
Thank you. You are still going back. You got your suggestion.
You could travel and forget your bag in a vehicle.
Solomon has not said anything
calls
yet.
you and gives you a bag.
Solomon hasn't said anything.
I'm still
yet.
proposing.
Yes.
The last I want to say is that after the national pledge, I think in Cameroon they should teach all Cameroonians from primary school Cameroonian heritage.
What do you mean by that?
History.
Yes, the history of Cameroon.
History of Cameroon.
A child a child in nursery school, when running back home, should be able to say, you ask him that what is the motto of Cameroon, peace for fatherland. It should, without blinking, he should be able to say, what are the colors of the national flag? The child should be able to say those things. What is the capital of this place? All those things are not there in Cameroon anymore.
Okay. Solomon?
There's a lot of controversy over the choice of 11 February as a youth day. That notwithstanding, it is laudable that Cameroon set aside a date to celebrate the youth. I think it's very unique to Cameroon. Cameroon is among very few countries that actually celebrate Youth Day. But the hype over the choice of date notwithstanding, I think it is a laudable initiative that we celebrate Youth Day. We showcase achievements of our youth, but it should go beyond just march past and sports and cultural activities. It should be in the case where the youths have the opportunity to showcase scientific experiments, innovations in agriculture, in arts and craft. And that will be able to...
That actually is done in the Ministry of Youth Affairs.
It doesn't transcend down to the grassroots in such a way that it will be a means for the youth to be effectively contribute towards our most trumpeted Vision 2035. The youth must be carried along in that process rather than just going for march pass and cultural activities and sports activities. And as Mr. Kmer said, the past has been rooted in falsehood, and for us to reconcile the future with the past, we must redesign the future. We must design the future on the platform of truth. And you also have to understand that we talk of the youth as a future of tomorrow, but it's today, not yesterday's tomorrow. We should first of all talk of today. And as a person, I always look at the present before looking into the future. Naturally. Let's first of all look at the youth of Cameroon of today. In a country where you don't have a minister who is below 40, in a country where to own a land certificate in your name, you must be above 40. Do you think the youth are actually empowered? The youth are told to go to the class to engage in agricultural activities. But you understand the first capital of agriculture is land. And in Cameroon, if you are not above 40, you cannot own land in your own name with a land certificate. So we can't be talking about empowering the youth.
So, no.
When the youth are every day enfranchised. There are other countries where the youth have been brought into the state machinery in responsible positions. But in Cameroon, we keep recycling the same old wood.
Okay,
and
so
to the detriment of the young people.
We have understood what you want us to put into the package to reconcile the future with the past.
What I would like to add to what has been said is that it's good that the issue here is for us to determine how we can reconcile the future with the past. Yeah. But Mr. Kmer said some things earlier, which I thought I should comment on. First, you know, when we're in a forum like we are here, as prestigious as this platform is, we are addressing ourselves to a public which needs to at least learn something from what we're saying. And scientifically speaking, Mr. Kmer used the phrase coup d'etat with respect to 20th May 1972. Based on facts, historical facts, scientific facts, legal facts, you see that for anyone to use the phrase or the adjective coup d'etat with respect to 20th May 1972, that's simply an interpretation because it is false. 20th May 1972, everyone knows logically, politically, legally, constitutionally how it went. It is not a history that we can say because we belong to this or that political party, because it is well known that in the northwest and southwest, it was not a coup d'etat.
They say it was a peaceful coup d'etat.
Deliberate, purposeful, programmed, and the people of the north negotiated, and the people of the northwest, including their leaders, took part, campaigned, because we know that in 1972, Pamuna was the leader of the campaign in the northwest, and I think Honorable Langwe, if I'm not mistaken, was the leader of the campaign in the southwest. It was well done.
And there was a conference.
And there was a conference negotiated. So some might have disagreed, but we cannot deny the fact that it was programmed, planned, and it was done according to the desires that they wanted. The other point I would like to make is that when you say, you refer to the past in negative terms, dark, falsehood, it already tells that in trying to reconcile or design, as Mr. Solomon Tambo said, design the future, you are already running away from the past. But as you know, you cannot move forward without looking back and say, what has the past, what are the lessons of the past? Rather, what the past offers to you is lessons. You learn from the past. But once you decide that you want to break away from the past because you see it in negative terms, dark, false, you ask yourself, had this past not taken place, would there have been a present? Would you have been here? The fact is, and if you deny the past, it means that even to go to the future, you'll have a problem. That is why when it comes to the youth problem in Cameroon, he just said here now that it is good that you set aside a date for the youth, and Cameroon has distinguished itself in that sense. As to the date itself, this issue, every year it comes up, but we should say this, because it comes up every year.
Yes.
The decision to assign a date or give a political meaning to a date is done by the powers that be. In other words, the constituted, legally legitimate and legal powers of every state. They decide, they know through consultations, politically, legally, and so forth, the date comes out, it is a constituted powers that decide, and it is established.
Yes, Prof. Thank you for that. You're talking about that history of the definitions that I've known of history. There's one that convinced me. I don't know how historians will look at that. That history is the study of the past, to know the present and predict the future. I like this definition.
I want to come back to the issue. I want to come back to the issue of the referendum, 1972 referendum. As Prof said, that it was not a peace, it was not a revolution. It was not a coup d'etat. Some historians say it was a peaceful coup d'etat. It was not done with the use of guns or bayonets or swords. It was done through intrigues. For example, let me learn. The Southern Cameroons decided to join La République du Cameroun through a plebiscite to be governed. The country was running as a federation. Those historians believe that opposite, that in 1972, the referendum should have involved only Southern Cameroonians to decide if they want to cancel the federation and become a renewed state. But whereas Aïdjo brought in the West East Cameroonians who came in with the overwhelming majority and diluted the referendum was supposed to involve only Anglophones and not the other side. Let me come to the results were already known.
No, I want you, Solo.
You already
before
one
I come to
have a referendum.
Before I come to Dennis, Solo, those are still those elements that make people look back with bitterness. We have come past that. This program today, the focus is with all of that, how can we make that future reconcile with that past?
We have to
answer that question.
If we want to reconcile the future with the past, we must first of all reconcile the present with the past. I'll insist on that.
Yes.
Cameroonians must get down to the table and have what we call the opposition SDF sometime ago talked about a sovereign national conference. Recently there was a major national dialogue. That major national dialogue, I would say, the results were not very clear because it turned out to be a Zodo citizen conference.
It's a process.
Cameroonians will have to come back to the table as one, and everything, every topic should be on the table.
Please.
Yes. So you should not table topics when Cameroonians meet.
Solomon.
Yes, I maintain my words about the
constitutional coup d'etat of 1972. There is no way somebody can say that this is misinformation to the public. What is a coup d'etat? When you decide to take a decision and a move which is contrary to the constitution, that leads to power implications in the country. That is a coup d'etat. A coup d'etat does not just mean guns. The federal constitution gave powers that for that constitution to be changed, for the state, that the form of the state should not be changed. And I want to justify what Prof said. I want to explain.
Go ahead. You cannot get out of our focus.
No, but I am telling you that it was a coup d'etat.
It was not a coup d'etat.
It was carried out. They said that if the form of the state had to be attacked, then the assembly, the National Assembly, that is representative of Southern Cameroons, and they must, 3/4 of them must agree. But they threw it to the population, which gave the Francophones the overwhelming majority. That was violating the constitution. Secondly,
on that point, you will give the second. On that point,
the referendum was constitutionally.
No, it didn't respect the federal constitution.
Why not?
Prof, this is the focus of this.
No,
IJO didn't respect the federal constitution.
No, which article was violated?
The article that the form of the state was not supposed to be changed.
No, that's not what the article said.
I'm coming. I'm coming. And that if it has to, it has to need a 3/4. Yes,
they always use that article.
Members of the National Assembly. So when
he will come in. We don't have much time.
When Prof speaks, I want to speak. He comes in. I don't make my point.
You made one point. I want you to finish the point this way.
Let me finish now.
Now, that point that you have made, we've got it.
Let me finish. I'm going to the next point.
No, before you go to the next point, you have stated that bad past. We are going to want from you. How do we use that the future? How do we use the future? No, see, how do we use the future to solve that problem?
I am saying, contrary, I don't want that, and in saying this, I'm responding to your question. I don't want Prof to denature the point I made. Painting the past as dark as it is, is not running away from it.
Okay.
It is not running away from it. And I have said that instead, we run away from the past by glorifying it.
You're not answering my questions. Stephen, you have the floor.
Glorifying it. And we are where we are today because of that glorification of a very dark past.
Stephen is speaking.
Unfortunately, the moderator is transforming this debate into CPDM SDF. We are looking for a way forward to the problem.
Of the CPDM.
I think
if you don't make a point, time will catch you.
Yes, the government of this country at some point started by teaching Cameroonians all Cameroonians national languages. In the Northwest, everybody had to understand Mungaka. People had to understand Douala. If this thing had been reinforced, this policy had been reinforced, I don't think we would have been fighting over Anglophone, Francophone, and things like that. Government should also valorize the education of the country. It makes no sense for somebody, a first school leaver.
Let him finish. We don't have time.
Yes, first school leaver who goes and does 6 months military training to earn more than a university graduate who goes to ENAM and comes out as maybe a civil administrator and things like that. The government is not valorizing the
Thank you. We have 1 minute to round up.
The government is encouraging people
your last words.
They should encourage people to go to
Solo, your last word. Just in 30 seconds, we don't have time.
Yes, I think I've said it before that Cameroonians have to be true to themselves.
Thank you very much.
We must speak the truth and in honesty.
Dennis.
We must build on the truth no matter how bitter our past has been
in
order to get a bright future.
For me, the future is bright, and as the head of state said the other day, the youths of Cameroon, that future, that bright future, is with and for the youths of Cameroon, and they should seize it. As the head of state has said, he has invited them. They should seize it. They should be optimistic and know that that future is for them and is bright.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. You agree with me that it was a hot set today.
No, you are right.
Thank you very much for all of you who watched this program. Want to thank you for your time. If you did not start watching the program from the beginning, you can watch a rebroadcast on Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. or you simply go to CRTV web Facebook at your convenience and you watch this program. Thanks once again for watching. Nice day.
done on